All right, here we are, week 7. We're going to go SQL. We're going to do intro to joins. Okay, so we talked about it in the lecture. Now we're going to kind of get a quick lecture on introduction to joins using SQL. All right, let's see. So, actually, let's go. Sorry. Let's go ahead and start up. Why do we need joins to begin with? All right. So, hold on. Let me resize this. We have a little sizing issue. All right, so why do we need joins? Well, joins are how we get two tables to query together, two or more tables you can query together using joins. All right, so let's take a look at this. We have two tables below, a student and a billing table. Now, notice that the student ID here is a foreign key reference here to our student ID, which is our primary key in the student table. The whole point is what we want to know is how can I make my output look like this? Because what happens is I have this table here, and I could send you this billing table, and it's got all the information you need because here's a student ID, it's 721. And if you're in the database, you can look and say, okay, well, 721 is Lauren. But if I'm not in the database and you just send me this, I have no idea what these student IDs would mean. I don't know who they go to. I don't know the person. So to get the result I want like this, I have to use what's called a join. It's a query that allows us to query multiple tables at once and work along the relationships. So as you can see, this is a diagram of our table we got here. So you can see our student ID is our primary here. It is the invoice is primary here in the billing. And there's a student ID in the billing, and we are joined on the student ID to the billing. Okay. So joins allow you to query multiple tables at once and return results. In order for joins to work, the tables in question need to have some type of relationship. There has to be some field that matches between the two. If I don't have a matching field like the student ID, there's no real way I can do a join because there's nothing to join on. And as you'll see in a second here. In the example here in the question, the student ID is the primary key student table and is the foreign key in the billing table. So the first type of join we're going to tackle is the inner join. The inner join is a default join. By default, if you type in join as code, that's what you're going to get in most SQL RDBMSs, okay? So let's look over here at these. I got these two examples here. I have table A and table B. Now, the IDs in both are the primary, and I know we have two primaries and foreigns matching. I know it's kind of a weird thing, but this is just for a quick example to show you what's happening. So with an inner join, if you noticed here, ID in table A is A, B, C, D. ID in table B is A, C, E, F. So the only matching things we have here are A and C. So they're the only two that are going to come across out of this search here because they're the only ones that match because it's an inner join. We remove anything that's not matched. Okay. And really quickly to look at the syntax for this, the syntax is as we start, we always have to have our select statement, our from statement. Now in this case, the from gets a little complicated. We're going to say from table A, and I'm going to call it as A, and that's alias. And this is just a good habit to do, is to alias. So always, again, when you do a join, always alias the tables because it makes it easier. And use a one-letter alias if you can. Table A as A, join. Notice I just leave join. I could type inner join. That would be correct. But because inner joins by default, it just knows by type join that it knows it's inner join. I'm going to join table B as B. And here's the secret. Here's the sauce here. On. I'm joining on the ID columns because that's what I want to match against. I want to match the A ID column up against the B ID column, and anything that matches those are the results I want to see in my table. Okay? Now let's go ahead and look at the SQL table I had at the beginning and kind of show you how we do this in the SQL. Okay? So to create the results we want from the billing table, which remember correctly here, we want to see the billing table, but instead of the student ID, we want the student name. So let's go back in. To create the results we want from the table, we can craft a query that looks like this. Okay, notice I've got student as S. Okay, so let's ignore the first line first. Let's just start with select. We also have to have our select and from. So my from statement is student as S, that's my table, joining billing as B. So student, I'm joining billing. So these two tables were joining together. These two tables were joining together. Okay. Hold on. Get this straight so you can see my typos. Note, give an alias to each table and we join on the student ID. So it's on student ID, student ID. So when I say S student ID, I'm referencing the student ID in this table. And when I say B student ID, I'm referencing the student ID in the billing table. That's how you know you're looking, because otherwise it has no idea which student ID you're talking about. So that's how we reference that together. Now this part up here, what I did, instead of just doing a star and bringing all the take columns in, I only want to bring in, again, let's look at our results we want. So we want the invoice, invoice date, amount, and overdue from the billing table. That's all we want. And then we want student name from the student table. So that's what we're doing. If you look up here, so I'm saying invoice, invoice date, amount, overdue, and student name. Now notice I've got the letters in front of all these, because that's why I'm saying these 4 columns are from this table. Okay, so they're all from the billing table. This column is from the student table. Technically, you do not even have to put, in this situation, you don't have to put that in there because they're not overlapping. We don't have, if I had an invoice column in my student table as well, I would definitely need to put this in to say, hey, which table do you want me to pull this from? Okay, and as you see though, when you run this, the results come out. You get the invoice, invoice date, amount, overdue, and we get the student name from the student table. So we get this result we're looking for. But you'll also notice that as an inner join, if you look at the student table, Gary is not in the results here. You know why? Because Gary doesn't append 546, does not appear in our table here. There is no student ID 546. So because there's no student ID 546, when we join, we don't bring Gary over because he's not there. That's called an inner join. The inner join, Gary will not appear because he is not referenced in the billing table. So that is your inner join. Now, this looks complicated. We're going to do a lot of examples and practice this in the lab. That's the best way to learn joins is to practice. Let's go ahead. We're going to look at the other 2 types of joins before we move on here. So the next join we can look at is called a full outer. Now, a full outer, as you'll see here, it returns everything from everything here. So, but look at this. So A gets 1 and 5 because here you go. There's an A in table A and B. B, there's no B here. So B returns 2, and in number 2 spot, you get a null because there's nothing there. C returns 3 and 6. D returns 4 and a null. E, because there's no E in table A, returns a null and then 7, and F returns a null and then 8. And the syntax for this is to simply add the words full outer in front of join. And like I said before, you could have gone back up here, you could type in inner in front of this join and you would be correct, but you just don't have to. Okay, so full outer, that's what a full outer returns. It returns everything. And if you go down here, and if I ran this select all from student as S full outer join, notice I have my full outer join, billing is B on the same thing, student. That's the only change I've made from earlier, and now you'll see Gary's here, and he's got a bunch of nulls because there is no information relating to Gary from the invoice tables. If you look at the 2 tables here, this first part right up to here, right up to end date, that's your student table. That's our student table. We have those 4 columns. So starting at invoice, this is all the billing table. So that's why, since there's no reference of Gary in the billing table, that's why you just get nulls here on the full outer. But that's your full outer join. Now let's go ahead. We'll look at the left outer and the right outer join. The left outer and the right outer join, literally just the way we're going to read it out. Okay, so in a left outer join, whatever table I name first, as I'm looking at this diagram, I put table A first. So that's the one we're going to look at. And table B will be our secondary matching. So the results come out like this. I get everything from my left table. I get everything from table A. I only get things that match from table B. So you see, it's kind of like a quasi version. As we go back to the inner join, it only got things that matched in both here. With the left outer, I could say, all right, I only want things that match in table A. I want everything from table A, and I only want results that match from table B. So where I don't have a match, where I don't have a B or a D in table B, I get nulls. But where I do have a match, I get the 5 and 6. But I get all my values from table A. And the syntax change for this is simply left outer join. So we had inner, full outer, now we have left outer. Right outer, exact opposite. Right outer picks the second table. So if I go right outer and my second table is B, see what we get here? I get everything from B. So I get A, C, E, F. And I only get the matching A and C from table A. So that's the difference. Left outer, right outer. And, if you're looking at code and working with people overseas, you'll kind of see this used more in people who speak Arabic or people from, Israel, the Hebrew, because they read from the right side of the page to the left, whereas opposed to, those English speakers and many other, we all read from the left to the right. So people who read left to right tend to prefer left outer joins. I guess it's just more intuitive for us, whereas people who read right to left tend to use these right outer joins. I don't see a lot of right outer joins unless I'm dealing with somebody from the Middle East or Israel or something like that. Just kind of, a little trivia fact for you there. But if you want to see a left outer join in action here, so I went back to our table here and I selected, now check this out. If we went back, remember when I did this, and I selected the columns I wanted, like you do in a lot of searches. I put, the letters in front. I want B, I want invoice date, and from my student table, I wanted student name. So I had the S there. Here, see, I took S star, which basically says I want everything from the student table, and I'm only going to pull the invoice number from the billing table. That's just a choice I made for whatever reason, but you can do that. You can do S star and then pick, so you can do a star either table you want and select everything from that table, and then you can select what you want from the other table. It's, it's up to you what you need to do. But as you see here, what happens, it's kind of cool. It's a left outer. So what happens is, see this? I got these 2 Kellys. I got 2 Laurens. This all information, the only change is the invoice numbers. So because they have 2 invoices each, they appear twice. Gerald's only got 1, so he appears. And Gary doesn't have an invoice, so he appears once because it's a left outer join, but he comes as a null. If this was not a left outer, if this was an inner join, there would be no Gary. Gary would be gone. We'd have Gary go bye-bye. But so, all right, so that's joins. This is a quick and dirty introduction. We are going to do a lab. We're going to play around with it. And the more you play with joins, the better they'll be. So, good luck with the lab. If you need to reach out to me, if you're having trouble with it, let me know. And thank you very much, and hope to see you in class again.